Hey there, political enthusiasts. Buckle up, because we're diving into one of the biggest shifts in civil rights since the Reconstruction era. Under President Donald Trump, the US government has taken a hard turn away from the civil rights advancements of the past 60 years, addressing racial injustice out, separating church and state out. Instead, the focus is on rooting out anti-Christian bias, anti-Semitism, and what's being called woke ideology. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, originally created by the 1957 Civil Rights Act, is now on a new mission. Its head, Harmeet Dillon, recently told conservative commentator Glenn Beck that the division is tackling anti-Christian bias. As a result, many lawyers who joined to champion equal access to the ballot box are expected to resign. At a recent White House cabinet meeting, secretaries were eager to receive praise from Trump for eliminating diversity efforts from the government. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins proudly announced the cancellation of certain contracts at the USDA, while Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy boasted about defunding DEI policies. And it doesn't stop there. Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought told Trump about forgiving a discrimination settlement paid by a Chicago lender. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth celebrated the removal of DEI and trans policies from the military, reinstating names like Fort Benning and Fort Bragg. The administration is also pressuring elite universities to abandon DEI programs by threatening to cut billions in funding. Harvard is one institution fighting back. Meanwhile, the US has largely stopped accepting refugees, but is allowing white South Africans who claim to be victims of racism. According to presidential historian Mark Updegrove, this pivot represents the biggest rollback of civil rights since Reconstruction. Trump's policies are dismantling the Great Society legislation of the 1960s, which includes the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. Updegrove draws a parallel between today's rollback and the period following the Civil War, when advances like the 13th Amendment were undermined by white supremacy and Jim Crow laws. He argues that anti-wokeism is essentially permission to accept racism. Cuts to Medicaid, higher education programs like Pell Grants, and Head Start could further erode efforts to create a more equitable society. Updegrove asserts that Trump's actions aim to dismantle the laws of the Great Society, which are foundational to modern America and its path to a plural democracy. While retreating from racial justice, Trump's administration is leaning into ending perceived anti-Christian bias. Attorney General Pam Bondi is leading a task force to eradicate this bias within the government. At the Supreme Court, justices are reconsidering the separation of church and state, potentially allowing taxpayer dollars to fund a Catholic charter school in Oklahoma. Trump declared at a prayer breakfast that he's bringing religion back to the country and plans to sign an executive order focused on religious liberty. Despite Trump's claims of anti-Christian bias, many Christians, including Reverend Paul Brandeis Rauschenbusch of the Interfaith Alliance, argue that such bias is overstated. Rauschenbusch warns of a slide toward Christian nationalism, accusing the White House of exploiting faith for power. This White House exploits faith for power, following a Christian nationalist playbook, he said. Stay tuned, folks. This is one political saga you don't want to miss.